What up, is Marcus Dynasty Dads? I figured I want to talk about like the top 10 prospects and talk about, am I feeling a little bit warmer on them? Am I feeling a little bit colder on them? Are we kind of status quo over the last month through the draft combine here? And even with some of the teams moving up and moving down and stuff, where do I feel like some of these prospects, do I feel like the hype is overwhelmed? Or where are we feeling? And I'll give you a scale. A scale of 5 being like, man, we're starting to feel like some heat towards them. We're starting to feel hot towards them. 3, and you already know there's going to be at least a 5 or 2 in here. At 3 is going to be like, yeah, we're kind of neutral. And then like 1 is going to be like, man, we are feeling ice cold. We're starting to feel like, man, this person might start moving down our rankings. We're going to start at quarterbacks because why not? Because we're going to start off with the guy that I think is a number 5 right now. And it's Anthony Richardson. I mean, when you have a guy who breaks the combine, just breaks it, you have to put him at a 5 because his mobility is what could cause fantasy football points and could cause him to be a top 5 quarterback in Dynasty. He's the only player in my eyes that you could look at in 12 months and be like, he's better than Bijan Robinson in Dynasty fantasy football. He also could be the Terrell Pryor or Malik Willis. And I listened to another podcast, and it was super funny. They said he could end up being Jalen Hurts. He could end up being in a tight end in 3-4 years. We have the outcomes of Anthony Richardson it's dramatic. I mean, he is so inconsistent when it came to his one season at Florida. There's a lot of concerns. There are a lot of concerns. The similar concerns I have with Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance is, but not that type of athlete. But Trey Lance was an extremely mobile quarterback that only had 1 year. And you looked at his zero interception season. You go, oh my goodness, Trey Lance, it could turn into this football NFL star, and he has done nothing yet. Yet is the key. So Anthony Richardson, I mean, he's been moving up already over people like Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston. And he could honestly be into that area where in Superflex, you could have him right into that CJ Stroud, Bryce Young tier. And then if you're 1 QB, Anthony Richardson is probably going to be the number 1 quarterback taken because in 1 QB leagues, I don't want QB 15, 16. I can get Jared Goffs. I can get Derek Carrs. I can even get quarterbacks to patch me through. I want a top 5 quarterback. Because that is what gold is when 1 QB. I mean, those are the only quarterbacks that are much worth it with value-based drafting. And so Anthony Richardson's the only QB that can really give me that. So he'll be likely the number 1 quarterback taken. Of course, taken later into the first, probably end of first, early second, just depending on how valuable your league's quarterback position is. And so the next one is going to be Bryce Young. And I'm going to say, if I give you a number, it's like a 1.52. I'm going to say it's a 1.5. We are getting colder on him. His size is a huge concern. But it's also the lack of mobility. His upside is probably the lowest of the CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. It is the lowest of the CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson tier with him. But his floor is also the highest. He's the safest quarterback. I feel like he's the best passer of them. And so when we have Bryce Young, it's going to be very interesting to see where he goes. Does he go to Houston? Does Houston also get another weapon along with him? So Bryce Young, it's one of those. Looks almost like a boring pick because the floor is going to be good. The ceiling is probably going to be limited because of that rushing mobility downside. I guess you could say he just doesn't have it. And so 1.5 for him. We're starting to cool off on him a little bit, and that's why CJ Stroud, who I'm feeling at I will say like a 3.5, 4. We're feeling a little bit neutral towards him. We think he's going to be the number 1. I think he's going to be the number 1 quarterback taken going to Carolina. And I'm going to say 3.5 just because he's going to be on a bad team. They have no weapons around him unless you count Ian Thomas and Terrace Marshall as weapons, which I do not. Terrace Marshall is... we'll see what happens. Maybe you get a 3rd-year breakout with him, but I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver 1 at this next level. And I would be hard-pressed to see if he's going to be a wide receiver 2 at this level. He could be a good wide receiver 3, which means you have a lot of missing spots. Man, what is my wife doing upstairs? It sounds like there's thunder coming down. So Terrace Marshall could be an option, or Terrace Marshall could be like a good wide receiver 3. Do they draft somebody in round 2 of this year? That would be interesting. I mean, they do need a wide receiver desperately. So that's where I have those 3 quarterbacks. So there's movement around, probably more there than any other position. And so we're just going to go through running back and wide receivers a bit here. And Bijan, we're feeling as normal as possible. So I'm going to say 3 because he's 101 and he's going to stay 101. Maybe a 3.54 because he ran really good at the 40-yard dash, and that was really cool. It is what it is. Jahmyr Gibbs. We're just going to go straight to Jahmyr Gibbs because Bijan's going to be 101 in Superflex and 1 QB, and I don't want to talk about him anymore because he's just amazing. Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm going to put it at A2. And the reason for that, we are cooling off a little bit. And it's not that he is moving from running back 2. It's just he's moving down some of these quarterbacks I'm taking ahead of him. And then there's now questions of like JSN, Jahmyr Gibbs. I like Jahmyr Gibbs better, but there is that 199-pound concern. And that is he is underweight. And where will he be put? He's going to need a good landing spot to have his abilities be kind of shown off. He needs to have that open field. He does look like Jamal Charles, who is that same size. I mean, Jamal Charles is a little bit taller, but you're looking at Jamal Charles is 5'11", 200, and Jahmyr Gibbs 5'9", 5'9"-ish, 199 pounds. So you're looking at a running back that is going to be a little bit undersized, and I think that the quarterbacks, especially in Superflex, and when you're in 1 QB, he's going to be 102 off the board, or he's going to be 103, probably as late if JSN jumps him, which we'll talk about him in a little bit here. So again, Jahmyr Gibbs just cooling off a hair. And then Zach Charbonnet, we're just going to put like a 4 because he ran a decent 40. Yes, his BMI was slightly low. But I feel like his draft capital is almost cemented into the first 3 rounds. There's been a lot of draft landing spots that I've really liked Zach Charbonnet to go, like Arizona. And so I'm feeling like he's going to be potentially jumping a wide receiver or 2 and cementing himself as a first-round pick. Let's go through some wide receivers here. The first one, JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's my wide receiver 1, my 103 right now in 1 QB. I mean, he's going to be behind some of the quarterbacks and running backs here. But JSN, wonderful 3-cone. And he has put himself, I understand his size is a slight concern when it comes to it's just a slight concern when you look at players like Jordan Addison and Josh Downs. Yes, those guys are 170 pounds. Jackson Smith-Njigba at least breaks that 6 feet barrier. And JSN, I love this tape. I love his route running. I love his separation. And I think he's going to be the easy, kind of concrete by himself. The next player we're going to talk about is Jordan Addison. And Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnson are going to both get 2s because Quentin Johnson he was shorter and less heavy than we thought he was going to be. We thought he was going to be a bigger player. He's still 6'3", but I thought he was going to be 6'4". It's an inch, but looking more into his tape, again, he just doesn't get the separation. I feel like he's going to go to a team, unless he goes to a team that actually has a great, accurate quarterback. He's going to go through the Drake London, the Kyle Pitts. I know he's a tight end, but he's a big-bodied wide receiver that's going to be struggling to get separation, and you're going to have really big ups and downs from him, and he doesn't have the Christian Watson speed to break away from everybody. And so that's where you're going to have some issues for his rookie year. And so I want to see where he goes. And Jordan Addison, it's just the weight. 173 pounds. Get this guy a food plan to get him into that 180. There's just fantasy wide receivers that are under 180. There's 3 of them. And it's Deshaun Jackson, Devontae Smith, and John Brown. Yep, I had to think about it real quick. And so what do they have in common? Speed, and Devontae Smith was a Heisman-type level of wide receiver at Alabama, just shattering through defenses constantly, and throughout his entire career was an amazing wide receiver. Jordan Addison had a disappointing year. And so they are, ultimately, if Zach Charbonnet goes into a really good spot, I can easily see a situation where you're looking at JSN and then you go a Zach Charbonnet right afterwards, which that would have shocked me if you would have told me that maybe a month ago. And so those guys, again, get 2s. So again, those are some of the top 10 prospects and where I feel like where we're heating up with some, where we're cooling off on some. And you know what? Honestly, I think I need to go back through and watch some more tape because we get all these numbers, we get all the analytics and stuff, and sometimes we go, oh man, I forgot this guy was just a really good football player, had really good video, and why did we move him down? And I've done that sometimes with people. Amon-Ra St. Brown was one of them where I loved Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then draft capital, and then everybody was just moving down, and you just kind of slowly shifted away from him. And all of a sudden now Amon-Ra St. Brown is an excellent wide receiver. And it was like, well, we saw that on tape. Why didn't we think about that when we translate to the next level? I mean, that's just, like, we have to do that. So, again, this is Marcus with Dynasty with Dads. Hope you're having a great Monday. Let's start the week strong. Peace out. Take care.